Okay, so you made it this far, and congratulations on taking the very first step to outlining a meaningful and purpose-driven spending plan. This is the Misfit Rebel spending plan because really, you need things to connect with you authentically. You need things to connect with you in a visceral way. We're going to end up talking about emotions, needs, and personal values in connection with what your spending plan is. Let's talk about the specifics first, the actual things that you'll spend your money on. We're going to use the GPS analogy. I'm going to give this to you in a way that I've shared it with thousands of people. I've said this so many times, and it was born out of empathy, out of really putting myself in other people's shoes who were really stuck with reoccurring debt, with the frustration of a month-per-month budget that just doesn't seem to work. Basically, the reoccurring statement was, one, there was a couple of them. One, where does that $300 or $400 a month go? I just don't understand where it goes. I've got my monthly budget laid out, so I'm assuming you have tried this too, all right? I mean, you don't start with the guy that calls himself the rebel and misfit money coach, right? You've tried this before, I'm assuming. And if you haven't, I'll get there. I'll help you with every step of this. Let's start with this big picture concept, the GPS thing. People call me and they're frustrated with the fact that they have debt at all. Like, how do I have it? Or how did I get back into debt again? This reoccurring thing seems to happen every year, every couple of years. I pay off debt. I go back into debt again. Where does that $300 or $400 a month go? I've got my budget. I know what my income is. I know what my bills are. I've allocated this much money for spending on food and entertainment and other things. But gosh, where does this money go? Some of them are literally going, I forgot Christmas. And you go, come on. But that's what we're really going to start with, all right? Literally. The location of a GPS is so important. The GPS needs two things in order to help you to change route, in order to help you to deal with the changes that life throws at you. Also, your spending plan needs to know two things: where you're going, so to speak, and where you're at. So we're going to outline where you're going is going to turn into a dollar amount that you allocate for, quote unquote, save. You're actually going to spend it. You're going to put money aside. You're going to allocate on your monthly budget a dollar amount that's based on things that you can identify in your calendar already. Christmas, birthdays, things like maintenance on vehicles, tires, brakes, possibly. If they're actually going to happen, you take a look at your vehicle, you make your best estimate. Do I need to put tires on my car, for instance? How often do I do oil changes? What about my anniversary? Would I like to go on a vacation? Things like that. How much will I spend? We total all this stuff up. Are you sitting down? For the whole year. It's pretty easy. It's all on the spreadsheet. Click on that big old button down below. You can't miss it. It says something like spending plan GPS. Click on that. It'll open in a new tab. There's a button inside that tab that makes you create a copy of it. So it forces you to create a copy. In order to make that work right, you may need to sign into your Gmail account. If you don't already have a Gmail account, come on guys, I can't do all your thinking for you. You got to do what? Right, create a Gmail account. If you don't want to do that, go find someone else to work with. I'm sorry, but there's only so much I can do. You need to have the attitude right now, starting now, that you're going to take your life by control. And if you got this far, you're probably already thinking, I'm trying to do what I can for myself. All right. There's a little tangent. So we're going to outline all these special events, these things that you want to spend your money on. In that spreadsheet, we'll get to this. I'll show you all about that spreadsheet. We'll do a walkthrough on that. We'll even have places in there so you can identify what your emotions, needs, and values are related to that spending. Go ahead and click on it. I'll show you. All right, this is what you should be seeing once you get it open. And so just a walkthrough on this. give you some orientation of what you're looking at and how this all works. First of all, irregular expenses GPS, just as I said. And really what we're doing here is we're trying to identify those expenses that'll happen in which month. There's a big list of stuff over here that gives you some ideas about things that you might spend your money on. Go ahead and look at that at any given time. I recommend literally getting your actual calendar out. This may be in your phone. This might be something you hang on the wall. Maybe this is something you should talk to your partner about. What you're trying to figure out, though, is how much money, what events, and how much money. So here's some examples. My car registration, approximately $375 this next year. I joke, I'll have some dental work done. You know how dental is. It doesn't pay for the whole thing. It pays for a portion of it. My estimation is $425. They give you some information. This is a kind of a good talking point here. I don't know exactly what that dental procedure is going to cost because that's not how medical procedures work. In fact, a lot of expenses like vacations, even things like holidays, it can be difficult to really estimate, but we do our best. With the information I have available to me, with that information, I'm able to write $425 confidently enough, right? So anyway, look, in February, there's Valentine's Day. Can you really pay for all this stuff for $100? Depends on where you go. Depends on some choices that I make, right? Anyway, my mom's birthday, she doesn't want much. I'm not just a curmudgeon. And I'm a curmudgeon. But also, Easter brunch. I make room for that. Chances are my partner in life, my wife, will probably want to go to Easter brunch. And that's probably a little overkill. But I'm rounding up because I know that there may be also some chocolates or some other stuff that actually happens around then. And I think that captures it. So you get an idea of how to work with this, right? These are things that will occur. This is how much money we spend on these things. Traveling for less than $1,200. I'm not going that far. If I have to stay in a hotel, that's really not that much money for what this stuff actually cost. Could I do it for a lot less? Yeah, I could go camping for next to nothing. Or, if I drive far, it's going to be $150, $200 or something. Or, drive within a couple hours at least. So, this is how this works. I go through and I list the events, some of which is literally already on my calendar. If it's not, check with your partner. And then you ask yourself, how much am I actually going to spend on this thing? And so anyway, I go all the way down. I fill in everything I can. I got, back to school stuff on here. I got costumes, maybe some more travel, some little traveling, Christmas. The average American family spends about $1,000 on Christmas. I put $750 because we actually do try and keep it lean. This is a sacrifice that we make. You might choose to spend a lot less. If you're a single person, maybe you're in your early to mid 20s or even in your 30s, as a single person, you really might not spend any money on this. So I'm not telling you this is what you're supposed to spend on it. You have to ask yourself the question, how important is it to me? We make some sacrifice around Christmas because we like to travel a little more. We also lean in a little heavier around birthdays. So that's how this works. This is how you get to choose. Bottom line, this thing all totals up at the end of the year. And if you look at my numbers, they're not crazy. $7,030. What this means is, and you can see it's all written out really clearly here for you. That's $585.83 that needs to be quote unquote saved every single month. Now, what that means is that I can't spend that money on burritos, other forms of entertainment, random purchases. I really need to allocate this money, set it aside as if it's a bill that needs to be paid. And I would literally recommend setting up a separate savings account for just this money and automate this. Maybe break it into pay cycles so that, 200 and whatever dollars gets sent to this account every single pay cycle. That might not work very well with your bills. I get it. So you'll have to make some decisions to make it work for you. This has got to fit for you. And so anyway, that's how that works. That's the overall concept. There's a second page here, needs and values. So you can see I clicked on this separate tab down at the bottom. If you look down in the corner here, you see needs and values. There's another tab there. What happens is this information is being automatically, it materializes, or it it populates on from a field over there into a field here. So I'll give you a little example. So go back to your regular expenses, back up to January. And let's say in January, I'm going to spend some money. I'd like to, I'm going to run a marathon. And it turns out that, that there's actually an entrance fee for this marathon. And so I'm going to need to spend, $200 for the overall cost for a little bit of travel and the entrance fee for this marathon I'm going to go. Now you can see marathon has actually been populated there. Now here's what I want to do. I want to connect this to my actual needs and values. I've added 2 lines for needs because sometimes it doesn't fit so cleanly into one need or another. I understand that. Also, these are blank, these are open. You can put whatever values occur to you in there. There's some definition here around what these actual needs are. There's some drop-down menu here with needs that have been taken from a variety of sources. This is a subject that's interesting because it's not as if there's one way, or it's not a simple list that you could make of needs. Maslow had a hierarchy of needs. There's something called deterministic theory. There's also Mendez, a modern psychologist that works closely with Tony Robbins, who has outlined 6 basic needs. I looked at those different models. There's many other models, actually. I looked at those different models, and I found that there's definitely some overlap. As you would expect, basic needs, obviously different people are going to recognize some of these basic things. They use slightly different terms and slightly different definitions for these things. I did my best to consolidate this stuff so that you could have a short list, because I think that helps with clarity. Because what you're going to do is you're going to get to know yourself. I don't necessarily think it benefits you to know the names or definitions of needs. It only benefits you if you can connect that to your own life, if you can put your self-image into it, if you can connect it with your visceral experience of the calling and the emotions that are related to having these needs met or not having these needs met. And this process will help you to clarify that by making your own mental model. And so we give you these terms so that you can begin to have your own experience. And so the same is true with values, by the way. Values and needs are slightly different. I've got another spreadsheet which has a very similar outline on it for people who have problem areas in spending, where we go into the actual emotions, 6 basic emotions, and there's a hierarchy of values so that you can get really in touch with that. This is a starting place for this. You don't actually have to fill out everything on this whole page here. It's available for you so that you can if you want to, and I highly recommend that you explore this territory. This has given you an overview of an annual spending plan and giving you a tool that you can use so that you can map this out with the actual dollar amounts so that you can add this line item to your regular monthly budget. You can use this with any app or whatever. There's generally a place where you decide how much you're saving. That's really all you're doing, is deciding how much you're saving and adding that to your budget. This would not include investment savings, savings for emergencies. There's other conversations to have around strategies for how to pay off debt and all kinds of other stuff about how much money you're supposed to spend on different kinds of things, all that stuff. And we can get to all that. If this is the only thing you did and revisited this exact thing every month or every quarter, I do it about every quarter, to be totally honest. Sometimes things come up and things change in my life, and then I need to go back and re-examine this again. I need to replan it. Sometimes I get opportunities to do things, and I decide, how does it fit? If I'm going to spend more money, where am I going to cut back on, or vice versa, or something? Things change. Sometimes I have major expenses on my car, for instance. This happened earlier this year. Some expenses. Guy rear-ended me on the freeway. And, I had to move some things around. And so that's what this does. It allows you to take a look and move some things around. It also creates a format for you to be able to have discussions with your partner. I've already mentioned that, you and your partner together, if you have a partner, are going to have a chance to be able to discuss what the events are and how much they cost. In my experience, this helps married couples the most, especially if you have a couple or a partner. Might be more than 15 minutes, folks. I'm going to go on a tangent here. If you have a partner who doesn't stick with the budget, maybe one of you is good at it and the other one's not. By focusing on Disneyland, I'm going there, all right? By focusing on Disneyland, have a conversation, do a little research, figure out what the flights and the hotels and everything, lots of decisions to make there before you've really got some dollar amounts that make sense. Once you've done that, you got a number for Disneyland. Let's say it's $3,000. Now you've got a framework to help you to discuss some of that other miscellaneous nickel and diming, the clothes that may not be necessary, the dining out, the DoorDash, whatever. You can't spend that much money on your hair and nails, honey, if we're going to go to Disneyland. Because now I've identified I need to set $250 a month aside so that we can go to Disneyland in 12 months. If it's 6 months out, you got to do the math on this stuff. This is the concept that allows you to go, do you want this or that? Do you want to do this and feel good about it, or do this and feel bad about it? Can I say no to myself? Can I have a discussion with my partner where I say, no, I don't think we should do that, and feel good about it? In the next slide, in the next part of the training, we're going to talk more about the actual conversation piece. How to communicate in a way that amplifies empathy and connects you with your values so that you can stay committed really for yourself and with your partner. To keep each other on the same page, to keep your own inner parts. I won't go on a tangent here, but I will say to you, you are a multiplicity. You think of yourself as one person, and you are, but you're also, there's many different aspects of you, different contexts of you, many parts of you that are engaged in all of this spending. All of these plans and processes, different parts, have different skill sets, and in some respect, different intentions and desires. By facilitating a conversation that's rooted in empathy, you can feel better about the decisions you make and sort of get everybody on board, all your parts and your family, your partner and children. In the Disneyland conversation, for instance, I'd go to the store with my daughter. She's 8 years old. And she wants to buy this thing or that thing at Target, and this thing or that thing, and Daddy, can we get it? And even an 8-year-old can understand, if I spend that $10, that's $10 that can't go toward Disneyland. The conversation kept happening because she's 8, obviously. She's not going to go, yeah, the first time. And some kids do, but most won't. She didn't. And we kept doing it. I said, all right, well, let's get all of it and put it in the cart and add it up. This is a good opportunity to talk about budgeting. This is a good opportunity to practice our math skills. This is a good opportunity to practice our communication skills. I'm teaching all of this to her in the process. Okay, so now we've identified this $45 worth of stuff you could get. And she's like, yeah, Dad, can we finally get it? You always say no. Well, that's $45 that we can't spend at Disneyland. Do you want this, or would you rather have that? It's fascinating. Even the child can go, wow, yeah, gosh. Right? So that's what we're doing here. That's what you just outlined. Now we're going to go a little further, and we're going to talk more about the communication piece. Go ahead and click next down there. You know what to do.